Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Helt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is MC Laubscher, and he is a wealth strategist and founder of Producers Wealth. Welcome, MC.
Great to see you, Gary. Thank you so much for having me on.
Great. So MC, give us your background. Your obviously your accent. You weren't originally from the States. Give us your story.
Yeah, so I'm originally from South Africa. Grew up during a very interesting time during the country's history. So it actually went from the apartheid government over to Nelson Mandela being released, to elections being held, and a completely different form of government brought in. And during that time, I was a young man. I mean, the uncertainty, the fear, the madness of crowds that has been written about a lot. I saw that firsthand. And looking back right now, it was actually a gift, just seeing what I'm doing these days, and learning that as a young man. So I got a scholarship playing sports at university there too. So after that, I traveled a little bit. I ended up in the United States, and I ended up playing in a sports league here up until 2007. During that time, I was traveling quite a bit in different cities, different towns, and so forth. I love history and economics, and just reading about business. I continued to do that. I was the guy on the bus, or the team bus, or the team plane reading. I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki that completely changed the way that I looked at money, wealth, investments. And I realized at that time too, I've got a fantastic opportunity here to play sports, make some money, and take that money and put it into, investments, build up something for me on the side, a business that will be there for me when I'm done playing sports. So I started doing that. I took action right away. I bought a investment property, a single family property. I put some tenants in it. I collected the rent. I paid all the bills, and what do you know? There was cash flow left at the end of the month, money left over. And
Right.
I'm like, wow, this is incredible. How many times can I do this? And of course, if you're listening to this, you're probably chuckling because that's when school starts. So a lot of ups and downs, but continued to do that. As I was building out my real estate business, I had this one particular moment. It was about a month where three things happened. The first thing that I did was I reread Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. And in the book, and I've read it now every single year for 25 years. So every year when the student's ready, the teacher appears. There's something new that came out of it. What came out of it at that particular time was I looked at the financial statements shared in the book. And it's very simplified financial statements, but I realized everything, there were liabilities on my financial statement, was the asset of someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
And that just struck me like just like a bolt of lightning, that, whoa, wait a second, who is this? And it was the bank. And I realized that the banks understand this game very, very well. They are not a participant in this board game. They're the board. And I realized that at that stage, I gotta learn how this works, how banking works, and how can I become the bank. The second thing is in my real estate journey, I met a friend that I started working for part-time. He was a large real estate investor. We had lunch, and he was sharing me at lunch with his advisors. He's CPA, he's lawyer, and he's life insurance strategist. We were sitting down, and he was explaining to me how he's built out a banking system. They had operating business, generating capital. Then they would warehouse all of this capital somewhere, and this was in life insurance, and then they would deploy it into investing real estate. But they built out this whole entire banking system. And what confused me even more is they were shareholders of a private bank. And they didn't keep their money there. And I said, well, wait a second, what's going on here? He said, MC, well, in our bank, that's where other people put their money. So we have a banking system there going. And then we have a different one for our family bank. So I was introduced to multi-generational wealth strategies, family office style planning within this banking system. And then, of course, I came across Nelson Nash's Becoming Your Own Banker, which Nelson was a mentor of mine. So at that stage, I'm like, okay, you need to be in the business that you're in, the real estate, but you also need to be in the banking business, which is what Nelson shared in that book. And so I implemented and executed this strategy in my own life, and then I started to help other people do it. So in 2015, I founded Producers Wealth, which this is one of our strategies that we specialized in, is to help people set up and create their own banking system, a family banking system. And we started doing it virtually online in 2015 in all 50 states. I also have a podcast where I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning, and I love sharing what I learned. I started a podcast called Cashflow Ninja in 2016. And the reason why I started it is through my business at Producers Wealth. I met all these incredible business people and investors, and they all had incredible stories, completely different of how they made their money and then
Right.
what they were doing with it. So I just started talking about that and just learning. And I was kind of like just the guide, right? Listening to these incredible folks sharing their stories and what they're doing. And that got a lot of traction, which that then led into becoming a full-fledged educational company. So it's been a lot of fun. 25 years in the States, and continue to be fun. And I love what I do, and I love the people that we serve.
You can definitely, as we hear you talk about that, can definitely tell that you're passionate about what you do for sure. Um, can you talk about a little bit more about the family bank that you're talking about? Because again, we hear many people on social media that talk about this. Um, but the way they talk about it, it seems like it's like, okay, hey, I can get this set up overnight and I can start having, returns immediately. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to provide some context here of where this kind of fits in. In an overall wealth strategy, you're going to have different things as part of that strategy. And I want to be clear on this because I think this is where there's a lot of confusion. So when you generate capital as a business owner too, there's a couple of things that you could do with it. You could save it, you can invest it, you can speculate with it, you can gamble, or you could just, pay Uncle Sam, which is not your uncle. So there's a couple of things that you can do with it, but it's very important to know the differences between those things and what the outcomes that you want from them. So I'll give an example. So savings is when you put the money that you generated in a vehicle that's more conservative with less risk. There's no such thing as no risk. So there's less risk. So you're taking on a lot less risk. And what you're trying to generate as savings is, number one, you want to protect the money. You don't want to lose it, and you just want a very conservative return on it. So one of the less riskier parts of an overall wealth strategy, right? You're protecting the money, and for that, you want a very conservative return. When you're investing, you're putting your money in a vehicle with the hopes of generating a much higher return. Now, it's something that you're knowledgeable in, you understand it, you understand the risks involved, you understand the outcomes that you want, and it's kind of in alignment of what you're trying to do overall. You can lose some or all of your money when you invest. That is important to know for people too, because I don't think that is shared in
Right.
any form or shape or media. When you invest, you can lose some or all of it. With savings, you're trying to protect it and not lose it and just generate a conservative return. You want a much bigger return with investing. And then, of course, there's speculation, which is an art form. Um, there are professional speculators. They do it daily. I have a friend, he is a professional speculator. You're looking at emerging trends and you're looking at distortions in the marketplace. You allocate capital accordingly, and you could do it in a variety of different ways. But the hopes there is really moonshots, right? Is you're trying to get a massive return. Venture capital is a very good example of speculating, because the goal of venture capital is to put your money, let's just say, in 10 different investment vehicles, or not even investment vehicles, but startup businesses, hoping that one's going to hit out of that 10. That's not investing. Investing, you want 9 out of that 10, at least you'll accept one loss. With savings, you want 10 out of 10 with a very conservative return. And then, of course, there's gambling. Gambling is, we all know it. You don't know what you're doing. You're going and you're just putting your money on black or red. Now, people will push back and say, MC, there's professional gamblers. I understand that. I have a friend that is a professional professional gambler. He is a professional poker player. He does that for a living. I've also I know card counters, but here's the truth. The house always wins because the game is structured in a way that the longer you keep playing, the more higher the probability is that the house will win. That's why when you hit the jackpot, you got somebody running out to you, promise, eat as many steaks as you want, stay in our hotel. They're giving you all these things because they know the math. It's all math. They know the more hours they get you to stay in that casino and start playing again, they're going to make all that money back. So where it comes to the whole banking discussion, and infinite banking and family banking and creating your own banking system, it's a system that you set up with the purpose of putting the money in a vehicle, a savings vehicle, not an investment vehicle or a speculative vehicle or a gambling vehicle. It's a savings vehicle. So it's a system that you create using life insurance, a very specifically designed life insurance. Most people think of life insurance as somebody's got to die in order for someone else to benefit from it. But there's a lot of living benefits. So from a savings vehicle where you have CDs, money markets, bonds, different types of bonds, obviously, and life insurance. The reason why life insurance is a very good savings vehicle for the system is the money's guaranteed. It's guaranteed to grow contractually. You get dividends on it, which is not guaranteed, but a lot of these companies have paid them for 170 years consecutively. You also get to place the cash value of a life insurance policy as collateral for loans. So you could do it directly from an insurance company. You could utilize a bank if you needed to, and there would be different reasons why you use the one over the other. But what it allows you to do is you have a vehicle that's always growing contractually, tax-free, because it's a savings vehicle, and at any given point in time, you get to access liquidity for your family, for your business, for your investments, and because there's guaranteed access to it. Through the policy loan or the lending feature where you're the banker. And then, of course, the money keeps growing in that policy with uninterrupted compounding, which is fantastic. And you get to use it in your own business or growing your own investment portfolio. So that's where it fits in. It's one thing of your strategy. It's not the only thing you should be doing. It's just literally the one piece where it puts you in the position to be the banker and create your own board, just like the banks do in our entire financial system.
Well, and one of the good things about if you're doing this, that growth that you have inside that life insurance policy is not taxable. So
Yep.
great benefit.
You're taking yourself out of the taxable game there and putting it in the tax-free game. One of the things that I see with business owners too, Gary, and this you might see the same thing. So business owners start a business and they're all in on themselves, right? Because not all of us are born with a silver spoon in our mouth or come from a rich family or rich parents. So you start out and you're all in. So everything is into this and you're working your butt off and you're just keeping your head down and you keep going and you hope this is going to work. It's long hours. It's blood, sweat, and tears. Nobody sees you at that stage. And at that stage too, because you're all in on your business, When advisors look at you, you look like a broke person on a financial statement, right? So you're not quite fitting into anybody's ideal client over there, but you keep going. You put your head down, you keep going, and eventually the business actually survive. You're in that survival mode. You're like, oh, I'm not bankrupt yet. This is fantastic. And you keep putting your head down and keep going. And eventually there's profitability. And now you're building it like a legit business. And now the business is growing and there's profits and you're bringing in and hiring employees and so forth. And what I usually see is at that stage, yeah, there are advisors coming in, and which the majority of the advice is, look, you've built a great business. Let's diversify a little bit outside of your business now. So let's take that money and put it in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds for you. Now, and we could talk about it also in this conversation of how to diversify correctly. But at that stage, what you do is you've just taken money that you've continued to fuel your business with, and you're putting it, losing control of that money, giving it to someone else, and they're fueling and funding other people's businesses with it. Like Apple. I love Apple. I'm on an Apple computer. I have an Apple smartphone, but Tim Cook doesn't need my money to grow his business. My own business need it. So that's one of the biggest challenges. And because you did that, because you diversified in stock, bonds, and mutual funds, lost control of that money, when you're trying to manage cash flow in your business, I call it the 4 seasons of cash flow. Summer is your highest revenue month. If I put you on the spot, if you're listening to this, you could probably tell me exactly what that month is. The opposite of that is winter, the lowest revenue month. And then, of course, you've got your highest month, the summer, which then it starts to slow down. It goes into the fall, and then the fall goes into the winter. And from the winter, you need to get back to the summer. You need liquidity in all 4 of those seasons to run your business. Sure, highest revenue month, summer, easy. Lowest, very, very hard. And to get from the winter to the summer, to the spring to the summer again, you need liquidity for marketing campaigns, hiring people, technology, that kind of stuff. So what do you end up doing? You go to a bank. And I know when I just said this, everybody listening was cringing, and it's kind of painful. I feel like every time I go to the bank, it's a proctology exam, and I'm ready for a blood draw.
Right.
But you don't have any options because you've taken money out of the business now, and now you can't manage your cash flow properly. You're always in need of money just to manage the business, which you could use for your number one investment, which is your business too. That's the other thing is what I see a lot with business owners. They absolutely crush it in their business. And then I get a phone call and saying, MC, should I be buying like an Airbnb? And I'm looking at this going like, well, number one, it all depends where you're at, but why would you want to do that right now? Like you're putting $1 in and getting $10 to $20 back every time in your business. I mean, that should probably at this stage be your main focus. So that's where this banking system comes into play too, because now you have a vehicle where you can position capital in that you're generating in your business, but you don't lose control of it. You get access to it at any given point in time to manage your business and your cash flow and or to reinvest in the business. So you've just become the banker to your business. And the other thing is, I was going to share one thing about diversification. What you've done there is you've actually diversified because you could set this up to be outside of your business, owned by your family or your family trust. So let's just say you or your family trust now owns that life insurance policy. What you've done is the money has gone out of the business. You have diversified from the business, which you should do, but you haven't lost control of the money. And you always have access to the money, and you don't have to have that terrible experience to go beg for money at the bank to manage your business. So that's where it kind of comes in, and that's the solution and I've personally done this for 15 years. I just want to share that too. I practice what I preach, and I eat my own cooking without getting nauseous.
Right. So I wanted you to go back to your Cashflow Ninja and talk about that a little bit more, because that really doesn't have anything per se to do with your Producer's Wealth business. This
Yep.
is a totally separate business. And the Cashflow Ninja, you use that to help educate, business owners and things like that. So can you talk about that a little bit? And then also, quickly touch on, your book of Get Wealthy for Sure.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I'll start with Get Wealthy for sure. And I'll go to Cashflow Ninja because that's with Producers Wealth. So, because, Get Wealthy for sure, the number one financial strategy for business owners to multiply their wealth predictably. I wrote that sharing this entire system that I just shared in detail. Because a lot of people will say, that sounds good. How do I have more control over my money? How do I put my money where I can use it to grow my own business? But where do I get started? Where do I get started and how does this work? So in that book, I wrote that specifically for business owners because I see it all the time. We have clients in 50 states that we consult with, and we see all the time that they're stuck. This is where they're at. Their business is completely starved of capital. That's why they kind of hit the doldrums. They can't grow it anymore, and they always have to go begging at banks and hopefully get some money just to hire people, bring in technology like AI. And manage their business. So we also talk about other strategies in there of how to protect you, the business owner, how to protect the business, how to protect the family. Because if you think about it, nobody talks about this because this isn't great cocktail party conversation, but what happens to you if you or your partners die or become disabled? What happens to the business? That's a question that nobody asks. What happens to the family? Nobody asks those types of questions. So the book is about the strategy, and we also talk more about business strategies and family strategies. And they could grab a copy of that book. We're right now doing a free paperback shipping. Only pay for shipping. So if you want a paperback copy, just go to getwealthyforsure.com. Getwealthyforsure.com. There's a link on there. Request the book. We'll ship it to you. Only pay for the shipping. And then you had asked about Cashflow Ninja. Cashflow Ninja, and the reason why it's Cashflow Ninja is my dad has been doing martial arts for, it's now like 60 years. So I come from he was a teacher and a military man, so military family, and teaches around the world still karate. And, one thing that I've learned from him is every single day he gets up and he just tries to be better. He pursues excellence daily in his craft. He's never going to be perfect because martial artists, they don't wake up one day and they say, you know what? I'm kind of a mix between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. I'm good. I'm good to go. That's not how they think. Their mindset is, I'm going to get up today. I'm going to hone my craft, my skills. I'm going to get better just a little bit today. So I've taken that approach with Cashflow Ninja, where the goal is for me and my listeners just to get a little bit better every day in business and investing, become a better business owner, and to become a better investor. And we share a lot of business strategies, whether it's marketing, sale, growing and scaling a business. And then we also share a lot of different types of investments, alternative asset investments, that things that, produces cash flow, appreciates in value, has great tax benefits, and assets. We actually covered and it's not just a round number that I'm throwing out there, but we did 4 books of 21 cash flow niches. And then we also have like 5 or 6 additional bonus ones in there. So there's over 100 of these different alternative asset investments, which we've researched, we've written on, we've done interviews on them. I mean, everything from how to invest in fine Scottish whiskey in a cask that ages, all the way to how you can buy your own island. I've had a guest on talking about that too, which is wild.
Right.
To real estate, different types of real estate. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we covered in that. It's been a lot of fun, and we continue to learn.
Great. Great. MC, we've covered a lot of stuff. I could go on because I like your passion that you have about this. Um, what have I not asked you that you wish I had?
I mean, we've covered quite a bit. I
Yeah,
think, I think one of the things that I think is very important also to bring in to a conversation is AI. If business owners are listening to this, AI right now is still like in it's it's crawling. It's when that baby becomes active and now you put it on the ground and all of a sudden it's crawling and it's moving. I
right.
think I think AI is going to play an incredible role in every single just every single business. There's not going to be a business that is untouched by AI. And we've incorporated a lot of that stuff in our businesses too. We have built, we actually now use some AI to build out and map out systems for clients, which is it's quite incredible what you can do with it. Our website, this is the funny thing, fun fact. Our website at producerswealth.com, we actually have an AI bot called Atlas because it's for producers, you the business owners. And Atlas has all of our IP, all intellectual property. So everything that all the books that we've done, podcasts that we've conducted, articles that we've written, blogs, Atlas has access to all of it. So people can engage with just with Atlas and go on and ask Atlas questions and go back and forth. And I've done that. It was a little creepy at first, but then I was like, wow, this is amazing. So it's just I would also say to folks is, when you are exploring things, always have an open mind, always look at the positives and the negatives kind of stuff. Um, and also be open to bringing in some changes. One of the big things that I did from a business standpoint was going completely virtual in 2015. And I did that because I did some consulting back in the day while I was going to business school, and we were consulting at Amazon. And as we're walking, the one of the properties, I had a sneak peek into one of the rooms. I always like to look around, and they had a massive screen with all these people on a screen back, and this is 2011, 2012. And I asked the person, what is that? And they go, oh, they're having like a manager's meeting. I said, no, no, no. Well, what are all those people on that screen? Now you're listening to it and going, well, MC, duh, that was like Zoom. Zoom didn't
Right,
exist back then. It's
right.
Skype. But that was in 2011. So seeing that and then seeing, okay, I need to position my company. So we built it virtual. We were the creepy people selling life insurance on the internet. Be happy to be one of the first in 2015. And then 2020 it caught up to us. So I kind of look at AI the same way. That's the reason why I share that story is don't miss this opportunity to also tailor your business and incorporate it in some way, shape, or form into your business because it's going to give you a huge competitive advantage. Might not now, but definitely in the years to come.
So, MC, people like what they hear. So, give us your book title again, your podcast and everything else, and where everybody can find all this information. If they want to talk to you, how can they reach out to you?
Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, if anybody wants to touch base with us, our website is producerswealth.com. And the book title's Get Wealthy for Sure, the number one financial strategy for business owners to multiply wealth predictably. And you could go to getwealthyforsure.com. That's getwealthyforsure.com. On that page, there is a link, like I said, where you can request a paperback copy of the book. Just pay for shipping and handling. We also have a link to videos that we've done, presentations. They're around 20 to 30 minutes each, but it's about this specific strategy of how you can build your own banking system for your bank and for your family. And then we also share case studies there. And then if you want to have a conversation and explore these strategies with us, there's a link there too at getwealthyforsure.com that you can just schedule a call with us, fill out a form, schedule a call with us, and we'll explore some options for you and your family.
Great. Really appreciate your time today. Enjoyed our talk. Look forward to staying in touch with you.
Absolutely. This was a lot of fun, Gary. Thank you so much for having me on.
Great. Hey, this week my guest was MC Laubscher, and he's a wealth strategist and founder of Producers Wealth. I'll see you guys next week.